Week 7 is upon us, and with that, a return in the action that we all know and love. This week, I have some actual units to play around with, but with all these sabotages online, will Good Guy Link remain? Or will we see the rise of the unapologetic red unit murderer once again? This week, we're starting out with Chapter 16. Honestly, I don't hate this chapter as much as most people do, but in a co-op setting, with no healing, and trying to race to the objective against an 8-move JaeAIK, I don't really love this, especially with long-range tomes firing away at will. There's one very key mission I have during this chapter, and that's getting my Ephraim to level 20 because he'll be promoting at the end of this. In addition to that, if I can get the Orson kill for 5 points, that would be really nice as well. I have the Horse Slayer, I took the Zanbato from the Convoy at the start of the chapter, and I still have a bunch of uses on Ephraim's Regenleif, so I like my odds. As long as I get there before Speedy does, then I'm golden. I do think I need to start gunning for some of these objectives again. I mean, it kinda goes without saying, but I was absolutely useless for most of last week's stream. There are also a handful of chests on the map. I no longer have Calm, so I can't really push for them as much as I'd love to. There's a Night Crest in one of those chests that I didn't remember was there until the thief opened it, but that would have potentially been something I'd like to have gotten to promote Gilliam for the points. Otherwise, there's not much else I would have wanted in those chests. I don't really have much need for the loot at this point, and it's more about just surviving what the game throws at me and trying to keep pace with points. Anyways, long pre-chapter speech over and done with, we start the chapter, and the beginning of this one is kinda slow. It's just a handful of enemies in a bit of a long, winding hallway where we're competing to even get spaces to put our units on. JaeAIK pretty much front runs and kills everything, as he tends to do. This time, though, Speedy did something I didn't expect him to, and he went down towards the druids and over to the chest with the tomahawk instead of rushing up to the objective. I guess the long-range tomes were enough of a deterrence, and he wanted the chest, so that's fair enough. It did give Jay and I the opportunity to bait out the tomes in the meantime. We also got ambushed by a bunch of Great Knights from behind, which was a fantastic opportunity for Ephraim to get a bunch of levels uncontested with the Regenleif. He can't do this all on his own because his defense is relatively average at this point, but he did manage to get to level 20. This Ephraim is pretty RNG blessed, which is well needed considering the absolute beast that I'm competing with, but by level 20 he has 19 strength, 19 skill, and capped speed with an abnormally high amount of res growth. Ephraim with a good res stat is quite nice, as usually that's what hurts him the most, so I'm pretty happy about this. Anyways, between Myrrh, Ephraim, and Innis, we clean up the Great Knights coming from behind. Noel summons his army of Harold, Gerald, and Werold to help bait out all the tome uses, and Speedy takes his time obliterating a mass of warriors, dark mages, and then gets the chest on the left-hand side. By the time that's all over and done with, a thief spawns on the right side of the map, and now he wants to rush there too and get those chests. I really have no incentive to go for it here, so I kinda just sit on the edge and see what he and Jay are going to do first. Greedy Speedy has definitely been a thing these last few chapters. You know that feeling when you've been starving for a very long time and suddenly you have this spread of beautiful food in front of you and all the 7 deadly sins kick in at once and all you do is blink and find yourself face first into the turkey and waist deep into the pie? That's what Speedy has been like these past few chapters. He's been seeing red and just pushing like a pregnant woman towards everything and anything he can have JaeAIK get his hands on. I respect it though, and if I was in his position, I'd probably do the same thing. But to circle back to the situation we're in right now, it definitely was not appropriate. Speedy sent Dozla across the map to try and stop the thief from stealing everything and contend for those chests. Dozla got hit a couple times by the druid reinforcements that spawned there, and suddenly he was in a pretty bad spot. Now Speedy has to haul ass and try to get over there to save him. JaeAIK is the only one can do it, and the problem is that, though we have a bunch of heroes in the way that are honestly pretty dangerous, he's gonna have to go for it. I did bait one of them down by accident with Duisul and didn't kill him, so he was just chilling there, and I forgot who baited the second one, but Speedy ended up killing him with JaeAIK. However, this came at a cost. JaeAIK was now down to 24 HP, and all of us have sabotages online. Honestly, this would have been the perfect opportunity for me to try to kill off JaeAIK. If I do that here, I basically have no competition for the rest of the playthrough. Dozla is pretty good, but I have Ephraim, Duisul, and Innis who can contest him just fine. Archer will do well against monsters, but he's very frail. If I were Speedy, there's no way I'm putting my units in this much danger just to grab a singular Knight's Crest from a thief that I'm going to sell for 5k gold. 5k gold is 2.5 points. A unit death is -30. The trade-off is immense, and he could have lost both of his big guns here, not just one. Anyways, I did think about this sabotage long and hard for a good while, and I figured it just might not really be worth it. Sure, it's my best opportunity, and sure, there's a spot there where he'd be in range of Orson and 2 mages, but if the sabotage fails and I don't get him killed off, I know for sure that he and Jae are both going to pull the trigger and kill off 2 of my units as soon as they possibly can. I'm still traumatized by Tana surviving my previous sabotage attempt, and if Speedy does keep his word about not killing off my units if I don't kill off his, it might be in my interest to just maintain the status quo and not lose points. So I decided to continue being good guy Link, and instead I killed off a hero and a knight and helped keep JaeAIK safe instead. I know Speedy is gonna watch this back and use it against me and say I'm not a good guy and I'm just keeping my own ass safe, and well, honestly, if I really wanted to cause an avalanche of deaths this chapter, I could have completely pulled my units out of there and sabotaged at the same time. Looking back at the footage, this would have left Rennek open to being killed off, as well as put JaeAIK in a bad spot to potentially die, and have Dozla gamble against the low-hit druids. It's honestly one of the downsides of giving a unit those boots in a playthrough like this. If you front run so far ahead that no one is around, you just put yourself in a situation to be left out in the open to an easy sabotage. JaeAIK is the only unit with 8 move on our roster at this point, and that means he can be sabotaged really easily by just having him be thrown far into the enemy lines and then having them gang up on him and kill him. So anyways, long story short, everyone survived that turn thanks to my generous contributions to society, and we got to move towards the boss kills. Of course, I can't be too nice, so I did have to go and block that last chest with Duisel. This is a competition at the end of the day. I can't be out here running a charity for these boys. Also, one thing that I should probably take a minute to mention is that Jae got Myrrh this chapter, and she has been going absolutely crazy with crits and good level ups. Now, Myrrh has some excellent growths anyways, and she gets insane bonuses from her Dragonstone at the cost of only having 50 uses in total on that Dragonstone. She's gotten a bunch of crits though to preserve those uses and takes almost no damage. She's going to be kind of an annoying force to contend with for the next few chapters, especially for objective kills. Anyways, I try to rush the objective and miss both of my hits with Ephraim, which is annoying. I decide to get out of range to try again the next turn, fully aware that JaeAIK is right there in position to steal it as well. Speedy decides to only enemy phase, so I don't steal the kill after, which is the better decision here. Next turn I go again with Ephraim, miss the first shot, but thankfully he pops off a crit to finish Orson off and end the chapter. Erica and Ephraim both promote, and both get their legendary weapons here, which is nice, and now I am in business. I have a 7 move unit, not quite the 8 I'm competing with, but it's close enough, and Ephraim's stats are really strong so he can absolutely compete for kills. Time to move on to chapter 17, which is quite fittingly titled River of Regrets, but we'll get to that later. In this chapter is the very last unit that can be recruited in this game, Cyrene. So surely she's going to be a strong kick-ass unit, isn't she? Well, no, it's quite the opposite. Cyrene is a pre-promoted Falco Knight with very average stats. They're not bad, and Sacred Stones is an easy enough game for her to get by on those, but she's not really going to compete for a roster slot. Though I will admit, her utility can definitely be pretty useful in a couple maps going forward. I've had enough experience with Chapter 17 that I know you can recruit Cyrene by turn 2 if you plan for it. Heck, I think with Flyer Tana and Tethys dancing for her, you can probably get her on turn 1, but it'll need to be your main objective. Anyways, I know I said we probably weren't getting her, but I guess it really depended on how our units got positioned in battle preps, as well as where the boys end their turn on turn 1 since I'm going last. Unlike the FE7 run, I'm not exactly doing extensive research and planning, and even if I wanted to, there aren't any maps where I get to go first so that I can do my planned openings. The best bet I can hope for is placing Tethys on the front lines and hoping Innes is able to get far enough to talk to her on turn 2. Once again, greedy Speedy returns for this map, and he sees a Draco shield that he wants on the north side of the map, so he actually positions his units on the left side instead. I'm kind of in shock, so I just place Tethys and Innes in positions where I think he should be in range enough to get to Cyrene after a dance, and Duisel and Ephraim fill out the rest of my positions. Turn 1 opens up, and Speedy breaks the tree with Dozla and rushes up to the left into a group of enemies with JaeAIK. Classic. Jae kinda splits his team in two. Noel and Erica go up the middle while Myrrh flies down the right side to deal with the heroes backed by La Rochelle. This leaves me with enough room to move Innes the full range and have him danced by Tethys to get him just in the right spot to recruit Cyrene the next turn. I wasn't really expecting to recruit her, but I think it tends to be overestimated how difficult she is to get. She'll probably be pretty useful on the next couple maps, but for a unit that's this weak, this late into the game, not really a great situation for her all around, but hey, she's pretty hot, so she's got that going for her at least. Turn 2 went pretty smoothly. Speedy is basically in the top left corner, Mur's in the bottom right dealing with the square of heroes, and I'm in the middle dealing with mages and druids with half of Jay's army. But on turn 3, we weren't expecting what was going to hit us. Once again, the initial name of the game is Greedy Speedy, who pushed so far to the top left he accidentally left Natasha exposed to being attacked by wyverns. The first one hit her on turn 2 and was eventually killed off, but what none of us saw was a wyvern with a javelin who was just in range to deal the killing blow. Naturally, the game made us wait an entire turn, but what we didn't expect was that there would be 2 deaths in the same turn. The bottom right has heroes and warriors, and the landmass looks like it's separated from the main line by a tiny bit of water. I've always known that units can walk across this small stretch, kind of like how they can do it in Chapter 7 to cross a river there if I'm remembering correctly. Anyways, there are certain places where non-berserkers can cross water areas. This is just one of those situations. While Mur was busy killing the heroes, Jay accidentally put La Rochelle just in range for a hero to run across the water and one-shot her. I totally did not see this coming, and it was quite the surprise when we were all worried about Natasha. Naturally, that wyvern waited until the very end to rush down and spear Natasha straight through the heart, and both Jay and Speedy get -30 in the same turn. I have to admit, I did have a bit of a silent pop-off when Natasha died because I realized this is exactly the points buffer I need to give me a bit of a cushion in this competition. Speedy and I were less than 30 points apart at some point, and so even if he and I agreed on a sabotage truce, a single sabotage from Jay would put us neck and neck. Now, between this death and level ups and objective points, I've actually pulled ahead by over 70 points. They could sabotage me twice, and I'd still be ahead by 10 points, not including my own sabotage, which is still online. I don't want to jinx it, but this is the position that I want to be in going into the last couple streams. Anyways, the rest of the map isn't particularly interesting. We slowly pushed towards Leon. Jay flew Mur up, and she was wreaking absolute havoc along the way, including a one-shot crit onto Leon, and just like that, the chapter was over. It was kind of annoying because I wanted that boss kill, but oh well. I'd rather it go to Jay than to Speedy, so net neutral is fine by me. Afterwards, we did some shopping and bought a lot of killer weapons, hand axes, and javelins to get ready for the final stretch of the game because this is the last shop we'll get for the run. At this point, like I said earlier, I'm over 70 points ahead of Speedy. 73 to be exact. Is it impossible for him to win? Absolutely not, but it does mitigate the threat of sabotage ever so slightly. The next few chapters should be fun. We're mostly into monster territory, so thinking about it should return with a vengeance. And hey, maybe the pair of bozos will blunder even more units to die to random greedy misplays like they did in this one. Sorry, I had to say that last one because Speedy said I would on stream, and I know it'll raise his heart rate a little bit and make him angry to hear it because, yes, I know you're watching, Speedy. Anyways, that's all I've got for this episode. Make sure you come join us for the stream this Saturday at 9 p.m. EST. The finale is near, but that's a story for another video. So come and join us until then, and I'll see you all in the next video very soon. Peace.